just how much higher are prices on GPUs than they really should be. I'm noticing that stores everywhere are basically overstocked. They're run amok with GPUs. We had a problem that was different before. Nobody had GPUs, so the prices went up, and that made sense. Now, we have another significant problem. Nobody wants to buy these GPUs. Next generation is coming. That makes complete sense, of course, and stores are absolutely overrun with GPUs. So why aren't the prices going down any further? I did a little research, and I'm going to use Newegg as an example because that's going to be available to more people. Anybody can go online and actually order. And of course, I know my European viewers, you're in a completely different market and the rules are going to be very different there. Although things have been improving in Europe as well. Even Nvidia recently released the Founders Edition for the first time at MSRP. First time actually in a very long time to sell to European customers. So that's certainly an improvement over not having it at all. So looking at Newegg, the prices are still very, very high. What's going on here? Wouldn't you think with a massive amount of GPUs in stock that the prices should go down? People certainly aren't really buying. The demand has gone down a considerable amount. And of course, everybody's looking at RTX 4000. That's going to be announced, we're thinking, within the next few months, very short months, in fact. And that's certainly bound to tank the price of RTX 3000. Now, if we look on the secondhand market, it's a completely different story. You're going to see GPUs such as the RTX 3090 going for sometimes $1,200, sometimes less, and that's if they sell at all. So secondhand pricing is certainly considerably different than retail pricing. Priced pretty good is a Windows CD key. Today's video sponsor is going to be VIP-CDKdeals.com. Very simple process. You can get a Windows 10 Pro CD key and remember to use code CC20 for a nice discount. So what are retailers and the third-party AIBs doing? I noticed a pretty interesting and very consistent trend. Let's first take a look at the RTX 3060. Most of the models are right around $399 to the $400 and something range. If you guys remember, the MSRP should be $329. This is, after all, one of the better entry-level GPUs, at least it should be, but at that price, it's certainly pretty expensive, over $400. Very rare to actually find a $329 model. In fact, there's no Founders Edition for the 3060. That's going to be one of the only ones that get left out. So at $399, it's the cheapest you're going to be able to find it on Newegg. Is that a good deal or not? Well, if you compare it to a few months ago, certainly it's a lot better than $500 or $600. But unfortunately, this late into the GPU market cycle, especially with the new GPUs coming out, $399 for the lowest model. We're not even talking about most of them. Most of them seem to range somewhere in the $400 range. Still seems to be way too high. Something else that's even more interesting, and this is where the trend gets a lot more consistent. If we look at the 3060 Ti, which in my opinion is a much better GPU than the 3060 for the price, the lowest one is $499. This is going to be a third-party AIB pricing. Remember, if we can accept that the Founders Edition is supposed to be $399, as well as all of the other GPUs we'll talk about today, the Founders Edition is basically the baseline for that MSRP, the cheapest that you can find it. That GPU is going to be $499, the lowest you can find it on Newegg, which is $100 more than it really should be as a Founders Edition. And that's still way too high because I'll remind you guys of a very important context. We're very late into the GPU market. So if this was last year, sure, $100 more for a third-party AIB model seems fair within the realm of what GPU pricing traditionally was. But we're really late into the game here. The GPUs have been out for almost 2 years, and we have a new lineup of GPUs supposedly coming out this year. So that $100 premium for the cheapest one, remember, is still way too much. And of course, most of them are still in that $500 range, which continues to be way, way too expensive. Things don't get any better as you get into the RTX 3070. Basically, $100 more once again for the cheapest model versus the Founders Edition. Here, $599 for the lowest price that I could find. Of course, the Founders Edition is $499. That's really what the price should be for all of these if they're meant to sell anything at all. So once again, too late into the GPU cycle, and it's still way too expensive. And if you notice, the trend will pretty much keep going up. RTX 3080, you guessed it, it's about $100 more than the Founders Edition MSRP. $799 is the cheapest one that I found here, but there's a caveat with the RTX 3080. This is the older original 10 gigabyte model. Remember when they refreshed it to the 12 gigabyte model to be maybe more competitive with AMD and as well as to really jack up the price without people noticing. There's no Founder Edition 12 gigabyte model, and initially this GPU was over $1,200, but Nvidia and their third-party AIBs quickly came to their senses and massively cut the price of the 12 gigabyte model. And can you guess for how much more it generally sells for than the RTX 3080 10 gigabyte? If you guessed $100, you'd be correct once again. So the cheapest one that I found here on Newegg was about $899, which is more than the $799 10 gigabyte model. Of course, if you're looking at both of these GPUs, it might make more sense to spring another $100 to get 12 gigabytes, a little bit more future-proof, and of course it's a little bit faster as well. It's more like a 3080 Ti almost, but in the same token, $899 for a GPU this late into the game still is way too expensive. Then of course the trend kind of continues with the 3080 Ti. The 3090 and the 3090 Ti is where things really start to kind of go on their own a little bit more, just due to the much higher pricing of these GPUs, giving you a lot more spacing between certain models and things like that. But this late into the game, unless you get a really good deal on one of these GPUs, you probably should not be buying anything above a 3070 or a 3080 in the retail space. Anything that's much more expensive, you're going to save a considerable amount of money going to the secondhand market. I know not everybody likes buying a used GPU, especially considering you might be afraid that it was mined on, or who knows how it's been treated the last few years. But a lot of research and a lot of discussion has shown that really there's a little negative effect if you buy a mining GPU generally, since they're generally going to be pretty well taken care of. Of course, it's going to vary from person to person. The big thing here is you're going to save a lot of money if you buy on the secondhand market. That's the point that I really want to stress. Of course, some GPUs, you may have to look this up, have a transferable warranty. For example, I know EVGA, you can actually get your warranty transferred with some limitations if you buy it used. So maybe recommend doing something like that. But especially for high-end GPUs, of course, you should be waiting for RTX 4000. But if you do have to buy something now, you can actually get a very good deal on a 3090 or 3080 Ti well below the market price. Don't go to retail because you're going to be paying way above the MSRP still. I've never really seen an MSRP matching the Founders Edition from retail. And at this point, 2 years after these GPUs have come out, it should not only at least be the Founders Edition MSRP for basically all of the cards, it should actually be less than that. We should be seeing sales considering the amount of GPUs that actually are in stock in these stores. And to prove my point, the 3090 Ti, which came out recently at $1999, that one you can actually find for under MSRP now. That's the first GPU that I've seen really discounted so heavily. In fact, for example, at Best Buy, if you're a Total Tech member, you get $200 off the Founders Edition, so it's going to be $17.99 as opposed to $19.99. Still way too expensive for a GPU with really marginal performance gains over the 3090, and considering that the price is so much more than a 3080 Ti, it's even less gains, a lot of diminishing returns if you're going to just use it for gaming. So that's why this GPU is being discounted. Nobody really is buying it at all, aside from a few very high-end users that just want the fastest one, or perhaps just wanted to upgrade just to upgrade to the latest and best GPU that's available. Having said that, something weird is definitely happening in the market as it transitions. We're seeing a lot of stock everywhere you go. Newegg, Amazon, Micro Center, even Best Buy has GPUs, but the prices really aren't going down as fast as you would think with the GPUs that are available. You would think with the imminent release of RTX 4000, you would think these companies would want to sell these GPUs at a lot faster rate than they're currently doing now, but pricing is staying high. On average, still $100 more on average for the MSRP across the lineup, which is not too good considering they're 2 years old, and we're talking about the cheapest third-party model is $100 more. In general, most of the other models that are not the pure base model are going to be more than $100. So that's really not that great in this GPU landscape. And as we're seeing, they continue to sit on shelves, which perhaps is a mistake that some of the third-party AIBs are making. I don't know exactly where sort of the cutting point is for the pricing on these GPUs, where somebody could actually discount it. For example, I know a store like Micro Center, if their GPU pricing is high, they probably bought it from a third distributor or something like that already at a fairly high price, and their profit margin is probably not too much on that particular GPU. So if they discounted more than it is now, if they bought it high, they're just going to be losing a ton of money. Where it really has to come from, most likely, is the manufacturer to give them some type of rebate or some type of a discount on the pricing of the GPUs that were bought when the market was really high and they stayed in stock. Because if they don't, these are just going to stay on the shelves at very high prices. And if they don't, worst case, the retailers are going to be the most affected by this very high pricing. They're either going to have to slash prices or keep the product on their shelves. So not really a very good situation, making them less likely to either price well the next generation or in general not do as well for computer parts and things like that, which is going to affect all of the consumers. So hopefully we start to see a change here somehow. If it comes from the retailer, distributor, or the manufacturer themselves, they have to start lowering these prices if they plan to clear the way for RTX 4000. As soon as RTX 4000 is released, if the prices continue to stay fairly high, it don't go down quickly enough, these GPUs are going to have even less of a chance of selling versus now. It's already very difficult now. Demand is really dry. So if that happens, nobody's going to buy these GPUs, and these retailers, which sometimes aren't at fault for really high pricing, are going to take a much worse hit in the end, possibly affecting the everyday gamer that goes to them to buy these computer parts and things like that. Prices have to go down. They're not down nearly enough, and stock is just way too high. So remember to subscribe, smash that like button. Let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.